let me raise a poll just to get an idea of who we have here, who already use our tools. So my first question is very simple. I'm curious about where you are located at this point. I am in Belgium, so it's 9 a.m. Here, but I'm sure other people are starting their evenings, their afternoons. And the second question deals with, have you already used ITC's market analysis tools? And if yes, which tools do you use the most? And I see people started voting. That's great. I see some action in the chat. Sorry, indeed. I forgot to mention that since recently, the tools are also free for EU countries, thanks to the sponsor of the European Commission. Does everyone have an issue with an echo? Okay. Okay, I unmuted everyone. I muted everyone, so normally there should be no issue with an echo. So, okay, thank you for responding there. Okay, I see some people are still voting. So I'm gonna give you a few more seconds. All right, I will close the poll now. And here we see the results. So I see that most of you, almost half of you, are located in Europe, but we have some participants from Asia, located in Africa and South America. So welcome everyone. Very different time zones. So I'm happy to see we are bringing together people from all over the world. Then we have, most of you already use my ITC's market analysis tool, so that's great as well. And I see that Trademap is our most popular tool among you. So very interesting. I see that someone said other tools. So I'm actually curious to know which other tool you are using, but if you'd rather stay anonymous, that's okay. Just curious here. Sorry, did I share the results here? Now everyone can see it. If you don't want to see the results anymore, you can click close. Okay, so actually I have another question for you. Also a poll question. Do you think these statements are true or false? So I have prepared just a few things to think about. So here you read, thanks to internet sources of trade information are abundant, business decisions makers shouldn't face any constraint in accessing them and clearing any doubts. And the second one is, thanks to modern technologies and processes, contents in all types of media go through serious quality checks. That is why nowadays we can rely in all sources of information. Are these statements true or false? Okay, I see people are voting. Great. It's a very simple way of just like thinking about quality of data, thinking about where your information is coming from. It's a big thing these days because fake news is being shouted everywhere you go. So, okay, let me close this poll here. And actually the answers are quite divided. So thanks to the internet, sources of trade information are abundant. I agree that this is true, but business decision makers can face constraints in accessing them and clearing any doubt because of this abundance of trade information. It is very hard to find your way through the maze to all this information that is available, which information is actually the reliable sources, etc., which touches upon the second statement, where we ask you whether all information that is available, which is so abundant, is also being checked for its quality, which is clearly not the case. I see that there is some consensus. Anything you can put on the internet these days can be accessed by millions of people. So it is very important that we always check where our information is coming from. So the International Trade Center works together with a lot of different UN organizations, with different customs organizations, the customs of each country specifically. We work together with the World Trade Organization. So World Bank data is a part of our databases. So all our data goes through a lot of quality checks for you to be able to get the latest and most clear data available out there. Because, and at the end, the data also needs to be available. But if a customs of a certain country is not able to get the information required, then there might be some hiccups in the collection of this data. But then I will go more into detail on this a bit later. Let me continue by quickly looking into the chat. I see a lot of hellos. Good morning. Okay. So let us begin by answering a few questions. Why should we be interested in international trade? First, the global market is full of possible consumers for an exporter's product, many more than live in your own country. So making businesses grow is possible by actually reaching new international markets and reaching international consumers. But at the same time, businesses also need inputs for their products, which they can also buy outside of their own country. So using these global value chains, it can now be possible to import parts, assemble them, and then export new products. So international trade is important on so many levels. It is an integral part of economic development, and our focus in this webinar is on finding attractive export markets and comparing market access opportunities. Here you can see an overview of ITC's most prominent market analysis tools. Today, we will see 3 of these tools during this 90 minutes because we don't have that much time. But I will quickly go over these ones. So we see Trademap, Market Access Map, and Export Potential Map. And I saw that in the polling question, most of you used mainly these 3. But then we also have the Rules of Origin Facilitator, where you can look more deeply into trade agreements and the necessary rules that you need to comply with to be able to take advantage of these trade agreements. We have the Market Price Information Portal, which deals with prices in agricultural products. Then we have the Standards Map, which deals with voluntary standards. For example, if you know that the country you are exporting to values bio a lot, you can look into how to comply with these voluntary standards and how these processes work. We have Procurement Map, which deals with public procurement, and we have Investment Map, which is being revamped at the moment, which actually has been revamped. So it's a good one to look into, which deals with international investment opportunities. Okay. We can find all these tools in one simple portal. So you see the market analysis portal here. So if you follow this link, you find all access to all these tools. You also only need one account to register, and then you can access all these tools at the same time. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me raise one more poll just to get you thinking about the next concept, and then I will dive into our tools. So I want to know whether you are familiar with the harmonized system, because this is a very important term that we will use across all different tools. So please just hear me and fill out this poll so I have an idea that we're all on the same page here. Is it an internationally standardized nomenclature for the classification of products, international nomenclature for the classification of products, which is different per country, international standardized nomenclature for the classification of services, or a system to harmonize the country groups? I'll give you a few seconds to answer. Okay, I see we already have 61 answers, so this is a quick one. I see that there's quite some consensus there. Let me end the poll here. Last answers are coming in. Okay, great. So we're almost all agreeing that this is a system that is internationally standardized for the classification of products. Okay, let me stop sharing this. Okay, here you see an example of this harmonized system product classification, because in order to understand international trade, we need to speak the same language of international trade. So a banana can be the same, same 6 digits across the world. This is actually why the harmonized system was developed by the International Customs Organization, and it standardizes products to a 6-digit level, as you can see on this slide. At the top, you have a chapter which defines products up until a 2-digit level, which is, in this case, for coffee, tea, mate, and spices, a 09 product code. But you see, it's very vague. There's a lot of different products underneath this code. If you want to look more in detail, you go into the headings, which is a HS4 level digit code. And then we specify with coffee, tea, mate separately, but there can be many more underneath this code. So you have 0901, 0902, etc. We have the subheadings, which go even deeper into the product definition, which shows you, in this case, for tea, the different types of tea. But again, there's many more than only 3 underneath this. So you see that they are separated by type of tea, by type of packaging. But black tea also has a different packaging, and there's many more after this code. So up until the 0902, 20, or 10, or 30, we are talking about the internationally standardized product codes. But then each country can define their products at an even deeper level, which is called the national tariff lines. And this code can be anything a country needs it to be. So if your country, for example, has a specialty in, certain types of tea, you will define tea at many more different codes here. So if, for example, export country Japan, which I will be using in a bit, they have a specialty in tea, for example, and they have a lot of national tariff line codes to define their tea more in detail. And you can add, as a country, you can add whatever you want after this HS6, and up until 6 digits, it needs to be the same digits as internationally agreed. And after that, you can add numbers, you can even add letters. So it depends on what your country does. It's important to know these national tariff lines when you're doing your research, because tariffs are levied on this national tariff line. So you need to be aware of what is your product definition in the country you're looking at to be able to know your customs duties to pay, to know your non-tariff measures to take into account, etc. So that is why this is a part of our international investigation. Here again, there's another example of how the top codes are all internationally defined. So 09, HS2 level, 0902, HS4 level, and then we go up until the most detailed level internationally, which has 6 digits. And then after that, you see how different countries define this code differently. So you have China who adds a 10 or a 90 for flavored or unflavored, but then another country can use the exact same digits and define this product for totally different things. So for example, the US uses organic or not organic as a more detailed level of definition. Japan did not define that much here. Okay, I hope this is a little clear to everyone, because this is quite important. Then we also have the HS Chapter 99, which actually includes everything that could not be defined under any of the other product codes. There can be many different reasons for this. Also, a country might want to protect some of its trade information. If there is only one company that is dealing in a certain type of product, they might not want to report all their data. So some of this can go into the commodities not elsewhere specified. Also important to keep in mind, I'm going to quickly go over this because you can, I'm going to show you live in a little bit how you can check for this, but keep in mind that these product codes, the harmonized system product codes, have changed over time. So every 5 years they are redefined, and each revision there are new codes being created. Some codes are being are redundant, so other codes are being reallocated, and it's important to keep in mind that some countries might be using different codes than you. So Trademap allows you to look into this as well. If you're doing your research, you might get a little reminder at the top of your screen where it says this code has changed over time for this country, and you can look into what happened to the codes just to make sure that your analysis is correct. We have time series in Trademap and trade indicators in Trademap. So the time series is just a very simple overview of the data as we receive them. So you see per year how much has been traded, separated by product codes, and per exporter or importer. So it's very simple table of the time series. You can also look into monthly trade flows, etc. But then we have our trade indicators, which is our most important, most interesting feature, actually, because we calculate for you some trends. We already compare trade balances. We already, we give you a whole table of indicators that can help you find which market is interesting for your situation. And for these trade indicators to be a comparable table, this needs to be using the same product codes. So we use the 2012 revision for this, and we correct for that. I hope this is clear. I see some action in the chat. I see that Sam is helping where necessary. Please, Sam, let me know if if I need to address something more in detail.
So far, so good. So
Okay.
you can continue with the presentation. I'm just gonna explain a few things in the chat. They're quite recurrent question. For example, whether or not they will receive the slides, and I confirm that they will receive the slide to the emails that they use to register for this particular webinars. And otherwise, if there's anything else, I'll let you know periodically. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, so I will go live in a little bit. I like to start my analysis using expert potential map, because unlike Trademap and market access map, this one is a more statistical, a more analytical tool where we use a lot of different information and we calculate according to our sorry, I'm not finding my word, but we calculate for you which destination market can be the most interesting by looking into potential and looking at actual exports happening between your country, the other country with a specific product or not. And this tool can identify where there is potential that has not been explored yet. So this takes into account many different factors. And it helps you to find favorable chances of export success, as you can read there. So let me quickly go into this tool, because I think this is a very interesting one. It actually also uses, it won a design award for user experience, design, etc. So it's a very nice tool to work with as well. And here you can see a little bit the key characteristics. We have a key focus where we look into the opportunities with export potential and export diversification. Today, I only have time to go into the export potential part, but also the export diversification opportunities can be explored, but you can find this in video tutorials on our YouTube channel. So, as I mentioned, this is an economic model that draws on trade, which we get from Trademap, tariffs, which we get from market access map, but this goes beyond our own data, and we look into GDP, we look into geographic data, and we always try to account for new information that can be added to be more accurate in our potential calculations. So, for example, the GDP projections, including the COVID-19 influences, are already being adapted. So we try to cover as much information in this model as possible. It is a very user-friendly interface. You can customize and download. You can visualize a lot of information. So I really enjoy this tool to start my research. Then let's look at the coverage. We have 226 countries and territories in this tool, and over 4,000 product groups based on the 6-digit level of the Harmonized system classification. So, as I mentioned, we draw a lot of information from our Trademap. This is an example of a table you can find in Trademap. So the product codes are based on the same product codes. We have the value in trade. It looks into the trade balance. It looks into trade trends as growth rates over 5 years, but also over 2 years. We look into global market shares, also into competition, average distances. And then here you see some information that we draw from the market access map tool. So here we see a typical table that you can find in market access map. I will go into that later, but you can find here your tariffs of your competitors. So it looks into competition at the same time. We build all of this information into one little block, and we find the unique ranking of the most promising suppliers, sectors, or markets, whatever you are looking at, for more targeted trade support interventions. Okay, I said already that the product groups are based on the HS 6-digit codes used in Trademap, but here the tool corrects for these differences in revisions. It corrects for some issues with these changes. As you can see here, salmon has changed from 2007 to 2012 from one code to two codes. And in Export Potential Map, you will find a combined product code for this. So you don't have to look into whether this code changed. So if you ever see letters in your product group, it means that there was some change in this revision of this code, but you're still looking at your salmon. And for today, I don't have that much time. Sorry, I'm going too fast. I don't have that much time to go into the whole calculation of this, but here you find a simplified formula. If you want, you can always go to the resources page of Export Potential Map, where you can find the whole calculations of this. But here we can see that it can be divided into a supply part of the formula, a demand part, and ease of trade. So what do we actually measure? The supply part measures how much an exporter can produce. The demand part talks about the importer's demand. And the ease of trade, sorry, I'm going to continue, because ease of trade talks about the relative trade between these two countries, and do they already trade amongst each other for other products? Do they already have trade relationships, etc.? So the supply side, how much can the exporter produce, takes into account the market shares, GDP growth, global tariff conditions. The demand takes into account the imports that are existing already, the GDP and population growth, so the projected GDP as well, which includes these days the COVID-19 effects, demand elasticities, markets, tariff conditions, distance between the countries, between the suppliers, etc. So how easy is it for an exporter and an importer to trade? Is a part of the blue part. I'm sorry, there's something happened with my animations of this slide, but the blue part needs to be on the right side. So the ease of trade talks about how easy it is for these two to actually trade. And here you see an example of how this is displayed in Export Potential Map, but I will look into that in a little bit. I want to talk to you about how we calculate this unrealized potential. So like I said before, we calculate this EPI using supply, demand, and ease. And this is the export potential indicator. So this calculates the total export potential according to our calculations. But then we also look into unrealized export potential or untapped export potential, as is indicated in Export Potential Map. And here you see how we do this. So we take this export potential, we deduct the actual exports that happened between these countries, and then we have our unrealized potential. In some cases, this potential, our calculations already, the actual exports already exceed this potential that we calculated. In that case, the actual exports exceed our expectations of what could happen between these countries, but this is actually a good thing. This means that this country or this product is doing very well in the market, even though the variables that we take into our calculations would not show this automatically. So if this happens, so this is what is shown here, if the EPI, the export potential indicator, is lower than the actual exports, we will never show a negative number, but we'll always show a 0. Sorry. So the drivers of export potential may be due to many different reasons. For example, we have one growth-based reason that there can be unrealized export potential, and this is simply the expected supply and demand growth. But there's many different variables that can be the reason why there's unrealized export potential, and these are more friction-based reasons. So we see, for example, the difficulties to comply with non-tariff measures can be a reason. Misalignment of supply with price quality preferences, difficulties to find buyers in the target market. There can be some seasonality that has not been taken advantage of, or suboptimal allocation of exports across potential target markets due to lack of market intelligence. So this is what we are trying to solve, this last one. We want to be aware of where the opportunities lie and take it maximum. We need to take maximum advantage of this opportunity using Trademap, Market Access Map, and Export Potential Map. Okay, let me go live right now, so I show you this more clearly. I'm sharing my screen, so bear with me. One second. All right. I'm having some trouble here. Okay. But I think everyone should be seeing my export potential map right now.
Yes, and also if you could please zoom in, that would be great as well.
Yeah. Is this better?
Great.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so, okay, let's start with the home page. So this is actually the first page that you see when you enter Export Potential Map. Here you have the home. You have here a few tabs, which will become a little bit more clear later, but you can directly look into products, markets, or exporters, but I prefer to start from the home page. But you can always click on these to change your view of the situation. We have an about page. We have a partnerships page if you look into which are the other contributors to this platform. But then the resources is where you can find a lot of information. If you ever have any questions, I find the frequently asked questions to be very complete. You also have some tutorials, as I mentioned before. You can find the product diversification indicator there. If you ever doubt which product code or which country group code you're looking at, you can go into the correspondence tables. So you'll always find here how everything is defined if you're not sure. And if you want to look more into which are the sources, you can find this here. It's very interesting. It gives you links to all the different websites that are linked to this tool as well. And then here on the right, you find a link to other ITC tools. If you scroll down here, you find a little box where you can fill out anything you want. So what is the export potential for? You can fill out a product, you can fill out a country, but you can also fill out a region, you can fill out anything that you're interested in. So I will take Japan as a country for my example here. And automatically you will have to say whether you want to look at Japan as an exporter or as a destination market. So I will look into Japan as an exporter. And here you find immediately the untapped export potential of Japan's exports that has not been realized yet. So this is a 400 billion US dollars number. Then you have to choose whether you want to look into products or into destination markets. So if you want to look into which products show a lot of potential for Japan, you click on products. If you want to look into markets that show a lot of potential for Japan, look into markets. I want to start by looking into products. Okay, looking into products just to see what happens there. And automatically you get a tree map, and you can hover over it and it shows you more information, like the box that I showed you in the presentation just now. It shows you the potential that we calculated, the actual exports that happen between Japan and the world, and the untapped potential. So the difference between this actual exports and the potential that we calculated. As I mentioned as well, there might be different product codes. In this case, we see some letters. So this means that there has been some changes in this product code, and this code covers many different codes that are underneath from different revisions, etc. And you wonder why the difference between the export potential and the actual exports is not exactly 50 billion, as you see in the untapped potential. So this is a great example of that, because you will see this a lot. Because we take many different product codes into one combined product code. Here you can see a good example of how, okay, how should I put this? Let me start again. There's many different product codes with all their separate untapped potential. And as you saw before, if the actual exports already exceed the calculated potential, we don't get a negative number, but only 0. So if you combine all these products together, you will never have the exact, sorry, I need to click on it to fix it. If you combine them all together, your untapped potential will not be a simple math of adding everything, because there's no negative value. So it would not correct for those products that already exceeded their potential. So in that case, there is $50 billion in this case. And this means that there are some products underneath this code that actually might already exceed their calculated potential. So if you ever see that there is not a direct, this doesn't not completely add up, this might be due to this, the fact that we do not take negative numbers into account. Okay, so automatically we get this tree map, and this is actually a top 50 products, export products for Japan. So this left part is the part where you can play around with what you want to see. So we look at Japan as an exporter, market is the world in this case, and the top 50 products. And here you can see them per subsector. So underneath these subsectors, there's many more product groups. You can play around with this. You can deselect some. If you are more interested in apparel, you click on that and it gets added. I prefer to actually go to the gap chart for this, because then you get all these products ranked according to their export potential. You can also rank them according to their untapped potential at the bottom of this graph, or even rank them according to their actual exports, and you will see how it rearranges itself in that case. For this example, I would like to look into beauty, makeup, and skincare preparations from Japan, just so we're not working with too complicated products, but also still a product that is high up the value chain. And we see that there is an export potential of 9.3 billion. We have actual exports of 4.2 billion. we have an untapped potential of $5.2 billion US dollars. So if we click on markets, automatically here you switch from the product view to the market view, and we see Japan filled out at the top, but down here we see that the world is not here anymore. We look at the specific product, our beauty, makeup, and skincare. And now this whole table changed into a destination market view. So we see the top 20 destination markets for this product from Japan. And now we see automatically in Gap chart. We can also go into a Geo Map Chart. I still prefer the Gap chart because at least we see the ranking. The Geo Map is very beautiful. If I click on it, you see how now it is visualized according to where your destination markets are lying. So you see that actually there's a lot of potential within the region. So there's a lot of Asian countries that show a lot of potential. And then this is followed by a lot of small European countries, but also the US shows a lot of untapped potential. The light color is always the untapped potential. So we see that for the US, for example, there's 708 million calculated export potential, but only 104 million US dollars already being exported. So we still have a lot of untapped potential remaining there. Let's go back to our Gap chart and just look at these top countries. So we have China, which is by far the largest in actual exports as well as untapped potential. So there's still a lot of potential to take advantage of, followed by Hong Kong, which is also interesting. US is actually the third largest destination market when we talk about this export potential. Thailand shows a lot. Singapore, but you see how Singapore is already doing very well. Actual exports are very close to our calculated potential, so that's great. And then you see how there's some European countries following there. You have Australia. So these are all countries that we can keep in mind when we look at trade flows in a little bit. Let me start by sharing. I'm going to stop here for export potential map. So Sam, if there's other questions on export potential map, I don't want, there's so much to see in this tool, so much to play around with. So I don't want to spend too much time, but I can imagine there's some questions there. Yes, no, yes, you can create product groups in Trademap. Okay, I see a few more questions.
Yes, so there is a question from Tarek, for example, whether or not they can create a product group in the export potential map. So as you may notice, the export potential map does not require a login. So the data are presented as such, and you cannot create your own personal product groups, just like Trademap. However, if your product groups, if the products that you are referring to actually belongs to the HS4, there's a high likelihood that you can find the subsectors, can find those products in the same subsector. So I encourage you to explore that. And let me reiterate again that we are recording this, and you will receive the link to this recording that will be hosted on YouTube and also the slides. So don't worry about it. If you get kicked out due to internet connection, don't worry about it. Try to come back to join us, to rejoin us. But if you cannot, it's not a problem.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I want to go into Trademap right now. Again, we will look into the most interesting markets for our products. So now we have defined Japan and beauty products. So I want to now go over a few of the theoretic concepts, just so we're all on the same page. This tool shows you how you can analyze global trade flows, and it is based on one of the largest trade flow databases in the world. And let me quickly also show you the key characteristics here. So there's information for over 220 countries and territories using data reported by 191 countries and territories for at least 1 year or more. I will look more into detail on this, but for the countries that do not report, we estimate what happened in that situation using mirror statistics. We update our data all year round. The annual, monthly, and quarterly data is updated all year round. Then we have trade and services, which is normally updated twice a year. And the indicators we update 4 to 5 times a year. And as I mentioned, we have sources with national authorities, but we use also the United Nations Comtrade databases and the statistics division. As I mentioned before, there are some limitations to international trade statistics. There might be some data that has not been reported due to problems in getting this information from customs in the countries. There could be some countries that are including their re-imports and re-exports. Some countries do not report this re-exports data. Some similar products can be categorized differently. There might be differences in exchange rate fluctuations that are not always recorded, even though we use the same exchange rates and change all the data into US dollars. So normally we try to correct for this, but it's not always recorded. Again, there's some re-imports and re-exports data, but there's also a lot of not reported data like smuggling, non-reporting in general, mistakes that are being made. And this we cannot account for. All we can do is use mirror statistics. As I mentioned, we use this exchange rate using fixtop.com where we change everything into US dollars. So you will see this in a little bit. But here you see the definition of mirror data. So we reconstruct data on the basis of the reported data by partner countries. So if a certain country does not report data, we can always try to understand what happened using the data that is used by their partners, their exporters. Like in this example, here we have a country, Iran and Myanmar, which are both countries that are not reporting their data. Australia is reporting their data in this very simplified example, but it's just to show you how we can have a slight idea of what happened between Australia and Iran, because Australia is reporting, so we assume that their data is okay. So we can have an idea of what happened with Iran there, but as there is no data between Iran and Myanmar, we can never know what happened between these two countries. I say that we have an idea of what happened because countries might report their data differently. For example, Australia is exporting, so they use a certain way of reporting their data, which is called free on board. This is often when a country is exporting, this is often the way they report it. This is related to the Incoterms. If you're ever interested, you can look this up, Incoterms. And importers often report their data as a cost insurance right. So these are contractual types, so it's not that important to know what it is, but it's just important to realize that there is differences in reporting, whether you're importing or exporting. So for the exact same transaction, there might be different different values reported, because the imports might include the transportation and insurance costs. So Australia might be reporting something different than Iran in the example that we saw before for the exact same transaction. Again, this is this example where Iran would say they exported 920 US dollars, and China might say that they imported 1,000 US dollars for the exact same transaction. So that's why there might be some, when we're talking about mirror data, we can never assume that the value that has been reported by one of the partners is the exact value that the other partner would agree with. This will always show up in yellow in Trademap, so don't worry if you are worried which data you're looking at. You can look into data availability. You can look at in the tables. It will show up as a yellow value, or if a whole country is using mirror data and you're looking at the specific country's data, it will show you at the title of the table you are looking at. So don't worry, it will be quite clear when we are looking into mirror data. And this is all the different columns that you can see in Trademap. So the first few columns deal with market size. Then we have 3 columns that talk about trends. It talks about annual growth in value between the last 5 years, the last 2 years in quantity, in value. Then we have other performance indicators, the ranking of partner countries in world imports. So you can actually look whether when you're looking into bilateral trade, whether your partner is also a large importer when it's importing from other countries, its share in this product, and its total growth. So you can see whether you are growing better towards this partner than this partner is importing from other suppliers. And then we have other indicators like the average distance of this partner you are looking at. So average distance to its suppliers, and then you can benchmark your own distance from this destination market and see whether you'll have some advantage there. Are you closer than its average suppliers, or are you farther away geographically? So this is actually one where you can benchmark yourself against. This is not an exact distance number. So the average distance between the partner countries and all their supplying markets is something you benchmark against. You need to Google your own distance to be able to compare. Then we have a concentration, which is also quite interesting because then you can see whether this market you are looking at is concentrated or not. You can see whether there's a lot of different suppliers exporting to this market, or if there's one country that has 70% of the market share or not. So this is already shown to you through concentration. This is used by Herfindahl index. I'll show you in a little bit. But we also show you the average tariff. This links directly to the market access map, so you can switch between the two tools, but it already gives you an idea if the bilateral relationship will give you no, you cannot see whether you have a preferential access, but you can see what would be the average tariff you would pay for exporting this product into that market. Then we also show you the ease of doing business ranking. You will see whether there is non-tariff measures you need to comply with, and estimation of untapped potential. And this links directly to the export potential map. So there's many different indicators that are shown. So let me go live into Trademap to show you a little bit more in detail what I'm talking about. All right, share. So we are here in export potential map. Now we are in Trademap. Let me click on home and search Trademap.org. Okay, so now we are on the home page of Trademap. Here we have the home and search. So if you're ever looking for this home page, you just click on home and search and you'll be here again. If you're not sure which table you're looking at, I always go back here to just start fresh and make sure that everything is set correctly. We have this data availability that I mentioned before. So if you want to look at your country, whether it is dealing with the latest data, you go into product data availability and you will see which year is available for your country, whether it's mirror data or direct data. We have the reference material where you can find some frequently asked questions, user guide, glossary, and the harmonized system correspondences. So here you can actually check whether your code has changed over time. It's quite an important one. So you can always go back to this one if you feel like your code has changed in the market. Then we have a link to other tools. And here you find links to the newsletters, to videos, tutorials, to the country groups, the product groups that are defined, etc. So for this example, let me again use our beauty products, beauty or makeup preparations, and for the care of the skin. So if you want to look for your product, Trademap is really good to define your product. You can type here what you want. So if I know already more or less how my product is defined through export potential map in this case, I might find it like this. It does not show up. So let me go into the advanced search. And here you can search by keywords or by hierarchy. So we can look at the HS level or the tariff line level, but I want to do international comparison. So we stay at the HS6 level. And now I type my beauty products again. And then we see that all the products that include these words that I typed will show up. So you can even show 300 per page here. And my mistake was typing products instead of preparations. But here you find already beauty or makeup preparations at the HS4 level. So I kind of know that I need to look at the HS4 level and the rest might show up lower. Here we find my product, but if you don't know for sure, you can always go to the hierarchy and see what is underneath this HS4 level. So we found 3304. I'm making it very complicated now because this is one of the most complicated ways of looking for it. But if you type cherries in the search box on the homepage, you will find your cherries automatically. So don't worry. I just want to show you all the options to play around with. And this one, the 99, was the one that I wanted to look at. So you see which other beauty products are underneath this HS4 level, but I want this one. And let me look into who are other exporters of this product, because I know I want to look into Japan, but just to have an idea of who are also exporting my product, you get immediately this type of table. So whether you look at exports or imports, you will always get this table. And here you have a little search box at the top, which shows you what you filled out. So you have here your product, your countries is all, we are looking at exports, but you can also switch to imports here. You can go into time series if you want, but we want to stay in this trade indicators tab, and I want to look at countries. So the title says list of exporters of the selected product in the latest year available. So this is 2020, and it will change soon, I think, to 2021 in a few months. But for now, we showed 2020, which is the latest year available with qualitative data, enough qualitative data. And we get a list, a table of the exporters of this product. The top shows you the purple is always the world aggregate. And here you see that in 2020, 50 billion US dollars was exported to the world. This needs to be seen in 1,000 US dollars. So there's always 3 zeros after each of these values. So make sure to keep that in mind. This is not 50 million, but this is 50 billion US dollars exported in the world. And we see that there's many top exporters of this product. You see that France is the largest exporter, because this list is ranked according to this value exported in 2020. So the first exporter is France, followed by the Republic of Korea, Singapore, Japan, the US, and so we can continue. So we see the value exported by France is 7 billion, 7.5 billion, Korea, Republic of Korea, 5.7 billion. So there's many large exporters for this product. Here you see the trade balances, which is calculated by taking the exports minus the imports. So if this is a negative number, it means that it imports more of this product than it exports. So for example, Hong Kong here actually imports even more beauty products than it actually exports. So it is in the top 6 exporters, but it still imports more beauty products. So that is all what this trade balance is showing. So if you're looking at a list of exporters, you would think that there's more positive numbers there. If you're looking at a list of importers, this is a list of a lot of red negative numbers, because importers tend to import more of the product. But there's always net situations that are different, like this one. If reported, we also show you the quantity. So here you find that a lot of them are, we try to change them to tons as well. So it's not always possible, but, and not always recorded, like Singapore does not report, Canada did not report the quantity like that. So if you're interested in that, you can look into the quantity reported. And then we also show you the unit value, if this is possible. The unit value is simply taking the value exported in 2020, dividing by quantity exported in 2020. So it gives you a value in US dollars per tons in this case. But it is important to keep in mind that this is not a price, because this value exported in 2020, there's so many different products that are underneath this product code. We're only looking at the HS6 level, and it has like a lot of different national tariff lines underneath this. I mean, beauty or makeup preparations can be so many different different types of products, different types of packaging, different types of qualities. So this unit value just shows you an average of all the products that are underneath this this code, and should never be confused with a price, because it is far from a price. The only thing you can maybe look into is whether this unit value is increasing over time for a certain market. Then you would want to investigate whether France is exporting more high-end beauty products, or if destination markets are just simply paying more for this exact same product over time. So it is a tricky way of identifying what is this unit value. So just keep all of this in mind, because then we come to these 3 very interesting columns which deal with growth over the last 5 years, but also growth over the last 1 year. So here we see the annual growth in value between 2016 and 2020. And here we see the annual growth in quantity over the last 5 years. And here we see the annual growth in value from 2019 to 2020. So it is good to compare all these columns just to see whether this growth is volatile or not, whether this is if this is sustained or not. Because, for example, in the world exports of beauty products, the annual growth in value between 2016 and 2020 was 14%, which is very high. This is a very high growth rate for the global exports of a certain product over the last 5 years. On average, 14% per year is a lot. But then we look into quantity. So we see that in quantity, this growth over the last 5 years was actually only 5%, which is still very, very good, but much lower than the 14% in value. So here we can actually assume that in the last 5 years, beauty products have become much more expensive on the global level, because value has been growing more than quantity. And then when we compare value, the growth in value over the last 2 years, we see that actually between 2019 and 2020, this growth has dropped to 3% instead of 14%. So it is interesting to look at why this has dropped so dramatically. Is it because this is just a very volatile market? Is 2019 to 2020 due to COVID restrictions in international trade? There can be many different reasons, but you always need to go beyond the Trademap tool to understand what actually happened to be able to draw conclusions from this, but it's actually quite interesting here. Then we have, sorry, I'm just going to continue with our growth columns because they're so interesting, because you can see that France grew at 7%, which is slower than the world average. And then Japan, our country that we were looking at before, has grown at 32% over the last 5 years on average each year. So this is a very high number, is gaining a lot of market share because it is growing faster than the world average. So this is very interesting. It's even double the growth rate of the world average. So Japan seems to be doing very well at a global level when we're looking into the exports of beauty or makeup. And in quantity as well, it is following the same trend as the world trend, where the growth in quantity is lower than the growth in value over the last 5 years. But so even Japanese exports are becoming more expensive in the world market, but it is growing at an impressive rate of 18% as well. So Japan is doing very well. And even in 2019 to 2020, it is still growing very well at 24%. So this is how you compare these different exporters and their growth rates. Hong Kong seems to be doing very similarly well, like Japan. And this is how you compare all your different competitors. For example, when you look at the European countries, they all seem to follow a very similar trend, around 6-7% growth rate over the last 5 years, whereas Switzerland is doing very well at 22% as well. But there's a lot of Asian countries that are booming their exports of beauty products. So I want to look at importers to compare. So I look at imports here, and I get the same table, but then we look at the list of global importers of our product. So we can do the same analysis here. We see a ranking of the top importers. So we have China, Hong Kong, the US. So you see that the US, for example, was a top exporter, but also a top importer because their trade balance was positive. So, negative. Okay. This is just to have an idea of who are the main importers of this product. So we have Hong Kong, China, Hong Kong, the US, Singapore, Macau, and you see a lot of similar similar countries come back from the list that we saw in export potential map. So now I want to look into bilateral trade. Sorry, I need to plug in my laptop for a second. Okay. I want to look into the bilateral trade to just see whether these markets are also Japan's destination markets, and whether there might be some smaller markets that are interesting. So I want to look at Japan's exports. So I changed this one to exports. And just to make sure I'm on the right page, I look at a list of importing markets for the product exported by Japan in 2020. We have our product, and we have a little summary of Japan and their exports, how they're doing in the world market. It's the fourth largest exporter, average distance to its importing countries, 2,571 kilometers. And we have an export concentration of 0.32. So this is actually the Herfindahl index that I talked about before. You can find it in the list of concentration. Here, concentration of all supplying countries of partner countries, or it is also export concentration. You can look into import concentration or export concentration. If this value is below 0.1, it means that your the country you're looking at is diversified. So there's many partners. It might be easier to do business with this partner because it has many different ways in. But if this value is 0.1 to 0.18, we're talking about somewhat concentration. So there's more. There's only a few countries that are doing business with this country, and the higher this number gets, the harder it might be to get into this to do business with this partner. So 0.18 or more means that this concentration is very high. So a 0.32 is very high. This means that Japan's exports is very concentrated. And when we look at our list of importers, we see that this is indeed a very concentrated exports system, because China is already taking over half of Japan's exports, with 2.5 billion US dollars imported of beauty makeup from Japan. And then it is followed by Hong Kong, the Republic of Korea, Singapore, so many regional partners, as well as the US, but then again, a few regional partners, and then followed by some European partners. So we would say that this is a very concentrated exports exporter. But then you can also look at concentration from the other side. So you can look into concentration of your importer and how their supply, how concentrated their supply is. So you can see that China has a 0.17, so it is rather concentrated as well. So China is supplied by only a few large exporters. Hong Kong is also higher than 0.18. So these are all also very concentrated supplies, except for the US, which might be more diversified in its supply of beauty products. So what I wanted to say about this table, so we're looking at the bilateral trade now from Japan with all these importers. So the value here is actually the value that these importers import of beauty products from Japan. And here we see again these three columns of growth rates. So we saw that the imports of the world from Japan is growing at 32% on average each year. But China is even importing faster at a 64% rate from Japan. So China is buying many beauty products from Japan. As I mentioned in my presentation, a column shows up which shows you some benchmarking opportunities. So here you have a column which shows you the total imports growth in value of this partner country between 2016 and 2020. So this column shows you how China is growing its imports from the world in beauty products. So China is growing at 46% on average each year, importing beauty products from the world. But from Japan, it is growing at 64%. So Japan is also gaining market share in this Chinese market. I am jumping around between the columns because this is how you play around with it. I see that there's some questions in the chat. Sam, do you know, should I go over something more? Because I know sometimes I go a little bit too fast, so I don't want to lose people here. I think I'm going to leave this table soon, so please let me know.
So far, I think I have answered all, if not all, most of the questions in the chat box. So
Okay.
for the sake of time, because we still have other things to cover, I would highly encourage you to submit your question in the chat box or write to us at marketanalysis.intracen.rg. You can also rewatch this particular video tutorial, the recording session. Yeah, so let's keep moving. Thank you.
Okay. Great. So this is how you actually see whether a country is growing its imports faster than the world's average imports. And here you can compare these growth rates just to figure out if you are already gaining market share in these markets. Are these destination markets doing well at a global level or not? Are they interesting for you or not? And here again, you see a lot of countries coming up that also showed up in export potential map. But as I mentioned as well, it does not always have to be the largest importers. Let me quickly look into that. It does not always have to be the largest importers that are the most interesting ones. Smaller ones can also be interesting. For example, you see a lot of regional opportunities here. And here, this again is a column to benchmark against. It shows you the share of these partner countries in the world imports. So this one shows you whether this is globally a large importer of beauty products or not. And for example, you see that Vietnam is only 0.3% market share in the global market for beauty products. So this is quite a small market compared to China, which is the top importer of this product. It is the 42nd largest importer of beauty products, but Vietnam is growing at 47% as well each year on average over the last 5 years, also in quantity at 40%, and in the last year, 2019, 2020, even at 55%. So even though this is quite a small global importer of beauty products, for Japan, this is a very interesting destination market. Okay, I think I'm going to leave that there because I want to go to market access map. I just want to quickly I'm going to, no, I will not go back to the presentation because we don't have that much time anymore. I want to go live and I'll just explain to you while we are here. So this is the homepage of Market Access Map. It's also recently updated for user friendliness. So it is a very intuitive website. You can actually, if you already know which market you're interested in, you know your own country, the market you're interested in, and your product code, you can directly search here. At this moment, I feel that I still want to compare a few things before doing this search, but here on the homepage, you can find your tariffs, you can find your trade agreements that are applicable to your situation, you find your non-tariff measures, and you find your trade remedies, if any are applicable in the situation. But when you go to these tabs at the top, you can go to your specific queries. So you can look into customs tariffs, you can look into trade remedies, you can look into export and import requirements, which is the same as your non-tariff measures. And then you also have the compare tab where you can compare markets, competitors, or different products. So I know which exporter to use, I know which product I'm using, so I just want to look at what is the different ways these different markets are treating my product. So I go into the compare tab, I click on markets, and I can compare these markets for their customs duties. So these customs duties are, they can be import duties or they can be export duties. Market Access Map only shows you import duties for the situation you're searching for. And they can have very different meanings. So let's start by using Japan for my example, so everything becomes a little more clear. We look at beauty products, and I know my product by heart by now, so we search here, but you can also go into the advanced search if you are doubting which code you want to look at. So we are still doing an international comparison. So we are still looking at the HS6 level of this product because the national tariff lines are the ones that are being defined by the importer. And we, at this point, only know which exporter we're looking at, so Japan and all destination countries. So we stay for now at the HS6 level. But keep in mind that tariffs are levied on a national tariff line code. So these tariffs you see now are the average of all the underlying national tariff line codes under this HS6 code. So automatically, we just get a simple list of alphabetical list of all possible markets and their tariffs. So we have the Mfn Tariffs. This is the most favorite nations tariffs. You can even click on this if you forget here, because this is a tariff that has been agreed by the World Trade Organization that the country will not raise their tariffs higher than, sorry, this is the bond tariff. This is a tariff that a country needs to give to all its partner World Trade Organization countries. So if Afghanistan, for example, has an Mfn tariff for this specific product of 16%, Afghanistan needs to give this Mfn tariff to all its potential partners. So this is an agreement with World Trade Organization not to favor any specific countries unless there is an official preferential trade agreement in place that has been agreed upon internationally, and then there might be some preferential access if there is preferential access, you will find it here. So the effectively applied tariff will always show you the tariff you would pay in case you take advantage of all the possible opportunities. So if there is a trade agreement in place, here you will see the tariff, the average tariff you will pay for this product. And then here you find the preferential margin, which actually shows you the difference between the MFN tariff and the preferences you might receive, because you can click on these columns and then you can rank this table according to whatever you want to see. But for now, I'm just going over the column titles, so we're all on the same page. The tariff year is also shown, so you see whether which is the latest year available in Market Access Map. And this one is also very important. As I mentioned, there's many more NTLCs, so National Tariff Line Codes, underneath this HS6 level. So, for example, Algeria shows 9 codes below this HS6 level. So it has 9 tariff level codes, just to keep in mind. And then we have 30% on average across all these 9 codes lying underneath. Here it shows you which revision these countries are using, the harmonized system revision. And then we come to another very interesting column, which is the imported value in 2020. So if we click on this, we can actually rank this table according to the imported value in 2020. So at least we get a list of the top of all the importers of this product from Japan. So it makes it easier for us to look into our market access conditions for the countries that we are actually interested in. So as we saw, China is the largest importer of beauty products from Japan. So you see that China has an MFN tariff of 1%. The effectively applied average tariff in China is 1%. So we do not have any preferences in this market, but the MFN tariff is already very low. So the same we can say about Hong Kong, about Macau, about Singapore, Chinese Taipei, the US. But then, for example, Thailand and Vietnam, they show you that there is some trade agreement that you can actually take advantage of, because the effectively applied tariff is 0%, even though that the MFN tariff, the most favored nations tariff, is 30%. So there must be some sort of preferential agreement here. You can see that Thailand has 3 national tariff line codes underneath, Vietnam also 3. So we can see that on average, we get a 0% for all these underlying codes. Okay, from here, I think we can agree that maybe we want to look at Vietnam as a destination market. So I want to go back to the home page there to just see the whole situation for Vietnam. But just a side note, you can always change, you can download these tables. You can also look at charts and maps, but I invite you to play around with this a bit in your own time so you can visualize all these different destinations. You can look at regional opportunities, etc. So charts, maps, but we did our analysis now using the table. You can also search for a specific country. If you're interested in a specific country, I type Vietnam and I find my Vietnam there. So as I mentioned, I want to look at Vietnam as an example. So I just go back to the home page, because now I have a full query that I want to investigate. So we have Vietnam as an exporter, Vietnam as an importer, and we look at 330429 beauty products. We click on search, and now all the different national tariff line codes will pop up if my computer wants to show me. It's having some issues there. Okay, let me just scroll down because I see that the data is already available. Ah, now it's there. So here you find a list of, we saw that there were 3 national tariff line codes underneath this HF6 level. So now we find the 3 different national tariff line codes. You can find that they are differentiated between anti-acne preparations, other face or skin cream conditions and lotions, or other. So you can define here which one you want to look at. I'm just going to keep the first one for this example, but here you need to start thinking, what is the product that I am actually exporting, and look at the situation directly. So first we get our customs tariffs, but this time more in detail. So here again, we see our MFN duties, which for this specific national tariff line code is 10%. And then all the preferential trade agreements that could be applicable for Japan to take advantage of for this specific product. So if you want more information, you can click them open. So you see that there's an ASEAN trade agreement. You can see the other countries that are part of this trade agreement here in the information, the type of trade agreement, since when is it in force, etc. Here you find some documents, because it is important to be aware of how you can actually take advantage of these trade agreements, because there's many rules you need to comply with to be able to prove that your product is actually from Japan and you're not just a re-exporter or a transit country. So here you find the chapters on origin procedures and chapters on these rules. You can even find an example of certificate of origin, but you need to go to the customs website or to the authorities website to find the latest version of the certificate, because it's not always the latest one. Okay, let me continue there because I am running out of time. There's so much more to say about this, but for the sake of our example and our goal of today, let me continue. If you ever have any questions, we always are available by email as well. So here you can see that there's other preferential tariffs. This seems to be a bilateral version, so it's just a trade agreement between Japan and Vietnam, and beauty products can be a part of this. So it is important to look into these rules of origin to decide which agreement you want to take advantage of. Some might be more complicated to comply with, etc. So it really depends on these chapters on the rules, whether you want to take advantage of one or not. Then we scroll down. This is still the home page. So the next section deals with the trade remedies. So you find here whether your selection is receiving some trade remedies, if there is some sanctions for this product. In this case, there is no trade remedies because Japan does not seem to harm an economy with their beauty or makeup preparations. So this is what trade remedies is about. These are World Trade Organization corrections for products that might harm a specific industry. In this case, there are none. And then a very interesting one as well is the regulatory requirements, which is the non-tariff measures applicable to this product. So here you see that the NTM classification is from 2018. Sorry, Sally.
Cecily, could you please turn off your microphone? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is also a very interesting part. I know I'm going over my time, but bear with me. We only have this to cover, and then I will be available for anyone who still has questions who want to stay. So this is the non-tariff measures, because this is important because these are rules that you have to comply with to be able to access these markets. It is not a voluntary standard like the other standards map tool. This one is something that you need to comply with, you need to verify, you need to certificate to be able to enter into Vietnam in this example. And it deals with very different type of rules. For example, we have rules that deal with the tolerance limits for residues of or contamination by certain substances. So these rules actually make sure that there's some quality of these products. They're protecting human safety, plant life, they're protecting the environment, etc. So there's many different reasons why these exist. Some are more complicated than others, but they always go together with some labeling requirements, what you put on your packaging, for example, so people are informed. You need to test some things according to the Ministry of Health. So if you click open these non-tariff measures, you can actually find more information. You can find out which authority is requesting this information. And if available, you can find documents with more information and links to the associated authority. So this is something that is very important as well. I don't have enough time to really go in depth into this, but yeah, I think it is quite clear how you can find your way to it. If you have some more questions regarding content, as I mentioned, we are always available for, by email. We normally respond quite quickly if you go to our general email address. So here you find even a section on the import requirements apply to all goods. So this is an overall import requirement from Vietnam, not only for beauty products. So this is everything you find on this homepage. So once you know your destination market, you can actually find a lot of information directly through our homepage. But as I mentioned, you can always go more into specific details through the access page. You can compare your markets, but you can also look into whether your competitor has some advantages over you in this market. So if you know you want to export to Vietnam, you can actually look at who else is exporting to Vietnam and how what market access conditions do they have to comply with. And you can see whether there is some differences between products. So for example, we have now 3 different national tariff line codes. Here you can compare these three codes next to each other. You can go to the specific trade agreements, etc. Also important, we can download a lot of this information. And one last thing I want to show you is our COVID-19 page, which took into account some measures that were taken, temporary measures, which we normally don't include in market access map, but for the COVID-19 pandemic, we kept track of these measures, whether they were liberalizing or restrictive measures for products related to this pandemic. So if you're curious about this, I invite you to go over this list, this overview of adopted COVID-19 trade measures. I think I will stop here now, because otherwise I'm taking too much of your time. Sam, is there any last questions that you think I should address?
I think replied to most of the questions already, and just to highlight one more time, there you can always send an email to marketanalysis.intracen.rg. We have a team dedicated to answering the questions you have regarding the use of the tools. The turnaround will be less than 48 hours, so please do not hesitate to send us. The email address is marketanalysis@intracen.rg. So for those of you who want to stay, I know this is a burning question for Tarek, and if he's around, he would like you to show him how to create a product or a country group in Trademap. So that's something that Tarek has asked me a few times. So formally, the session is finished. You can stick around if you want to see this. If you do not want to see this, please feel free to leave, and we will follow up with the recording of this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I see that a lot of people learned a lot. So I'm very happy that I could add something to your analysis, because I know most of you already use the tools. So thank you for joining us today. And I really hope that your analysis will be more in-depth. I see that there is one more question as well. So I will look into the country groups, product groups right now, and market access map question. The drop-down menu for exporting country does not work. It shows only all countries and select countries, but without opportunity to enter a country or select it. Compare competitors. Okay, let me go into MacMap. Compare competitors. Exporting countries, so destination country, Vietnam. Do you mean here? Because for me, it is working. If that's the drop-down button you are referring to. Exporting country. No, because if you are looking at comparing competitors, we want to compare all the exporting countries. So this is automatically set to all. The only thing you can fill out is the Vietnam, is the destination country, and then you can compare all the competitors in this destination market. So if you're looking at comparing markets, then you can select an exporting country and look at all the destination countries. If we are looking at comparing competitors, we are looking at all exporting countries. Okay, thank you. Okay, let me go back to Trademap, because I think that's also a very interesting one, and it's quite easy to create your own groups. So once you have registered for an account, here at the top, you can go to manage my country groups and manage my product groups. So you have automatically a set of product groups that we created for you, which you can always find here. Or automatically you have a list of country groups, which is defined by very typical country groups that are already in the international trade community. Okay. But if you want to add more specific country groups or product groups, you can go directly here, and it works both very similarly. So, okay, it's not, okay. So here you can actually, so I clicked on manage my product groups. I get to this page to create my own group or to change an existing group. So yeah, it's what you want to do. For example, I created a group. I did create a group on wood products. So let me change an existing group in this case. Here, and automatically here you find all the product codes that are inside this product group. If I want to change this, I can go and select from all the separate products. You can go up until the HS6 level code to add products here. Or you can add product groups, or if I want to add some cotton products to my wood product list, I can do that here, or I can go through my own product lists just to see whether, and I click on it. For example, I click on wine. I click on that, and normally my sparkling wine here is added to my group. I'm not going to save this because I don't want to lose my wood products group, but this is how you play around with this. I can also change for a new product group name, for example, my beauty products. Okay. And you go select from products. We know it was at 33. So 33,304. And here we have this where we can add more. We can add. Yeah, we can create a group here. We create it, and then we go to the home and search, and it will show up here. So we are at the home page. We change instead of single product to a group version, and we see all our groups here. So our wood products show up as well, and we can go from there. The same thing, the search for country groups is actually very similar. I see some more questions there. I have one suggestion: take one more step when we select the HS6 code, and then there show up the product photo. Yeah, but there's over 4,000 products at the HS6 level, and then we go into the national tariff lines level. So I think this is a little complicated, but I agree it would be much more clear. Definitely. I'm not sure what you mean. There's one question: Trademap does not reflect tariff concessions from regional and bilateral trade agreements. So Trademap does not show information on tariffs except for the average tariffs, but I'm not sure what you mean otherwise. So please. Yeah, so Trademap shows you the average tariffs. So let me look into our beauty products again. Beauty preparations. For 99. It's not working today. We're looking at groups, that's why. Okay. 3304 99. Beauty products from Japan. We're looking into the trade indicators. Okay. So here you see the list of destination markets of beauty products from Japan. And in this case, you do see the average tariffs for all importers separately. So China was 1%, as we saw in Market Access Map. If we click on this, we go directly to Market Access Map. Hong Kong was 0. And here we see the average tariffs there. I'm not sure why this is 4.7%. So that's, I would never make any conclusions from the Trademap list of tariffs, but it's a good indicator which countries do have higher tariffs than others. So from here, you can go directly into your query on Market Access Map. So to see these tariffs, you need to look into the bilateral trade, because tariffs are levied between one country and another. Compared average tariff before RT and after, they were the same. If you have some questions related to finding specific codes, I think it's better to write me by email so I can do some specific research. I think otherwise it might take me some time here. I see another question. I believe that the annual growth in value of last 5 years indicate total growth and not annual growth. This way looks more reasonable than, for example, 32 annually for Japan. So no, this growth is actually the annual growth, the average annual growth rate between these years. So that's why this is a very high number every year. But it is weighted against the traded US dollars. So no, this is definitely an average per year. That's why indeed this 32% per year is very high. Yes, I will share with you the video records. Okay. Let's try to find raw herbs. If you're looking at a product which you know more or less at what level of production it is identified, you will always start this HS classification with the simplest products first, and then the higher the number gets, the more complicated products will come. So you have machinery, etc., is all here at the end. You see 84 is machinery. So if you're looking at simple products like raw herbs, it's good to look at this first 20 something product codes. Otherwise, I really like a website which is called, no, let me try the advanced search first. Search by keyword. Okay. Herbs. Because some things are already connected to each other, are experts, but I feel like no, it's not coming up automatically. So let me go to the Eurostat website. This is actually a very interesting one, which we use a lot as well, because it asks a lot of questions about what type of herbs, for example, you want to look at. So here, what do we want to look at? Do we want to have living herbs with roots, dormant? So you get your HS code. I can send it in an email as well. And then, yeah, this is the European Union. So this is a very interesting website as well. I see there are some other questions. So yeah, for the herbs question, as I mentioned, these HS 6 codes combine a lot of different products. So if you're looking for a very specific Latin name, I'm pretty sure you won't find it in the HS 6 level codes. You will have to figure out to which product group these products belong to be able to I really invite you to go to the Eurostat website so you can fill out the questions as you see fit. I see that there's some questions for more meetings and webinars, so please feel free to write to our general account email address, because there we can organize definitely more sessions and they will be able to give you more information. So I put it now, oh, sorry, this is not correct, marketanalysis.intracen.rg, marketanalysis.intracen.rg. So the second one is correct, but if you ever lose this email address, you can always go to marketanalysis.intracen.rg, or you can Google market analysis ITC and you will get to this specific website, and it will also bring you to us. So don't worry. You can always ask these queries about other webinars through there. You can also create your account if necessary, if you still don't have one there. Yes, please. You can ask your question. I think you're typing. So other than this, I think we can close the session. The link to the portal that I just shared in the chat is actually linked to this page. So here you find your way to all other tools. So automatically you will see Trademap, market access map, and export potential map for the region you are at, and it will show you the information that is there. But then you can also find all the other market analysis tools, market price information, global trade help desk, investment map, and the other ones that we discussed before. You can also find video tutorials. So this page is very interesting. You can find our social media accounts here as well. So you will always be able to contact us. You can find our latest newsletters. Yeah, this is a very interesting page. Okay, I see that there's a question now. The Trademap ranking is based on values, which is a function of the price. No, so the Trademap ranking is only according to the value, but you can play around with this. Maybe I didn't show you that yet. Automatically, it is ranked according to the value. It is also giving you the quantity, of course, if it's reported. But if we go to our trade indicators, you see that whatever is yellow here at the top is whatever the table is ranked according to. So if you want to rank it according to quantity, you can, but then you have to click on quantity. And this one becomes yellow. And now you see which countries were the highest importers of beauty products when we're talking about quantity. So that's how you play around with that. You can also click on who is growing the most, annual growth, but then you see how we are receiving a lot of yellow information. So that's why I don't like to play around with that too much, because this means that we are looking at mirror statistics. So this is not directly reported data. So there might be some issues with the quality of this data. So yeah, the yellow data, we always have to be careful with. Okay, I think I'm going to close this session here. Thank you so much for all the questions. I think it's very interesting. The more interactive these sessions get, the more we can learn from it. So thank you very much. And I hope to see you all soon, maybe in a next webinar where I can go more into detail, because we have so much left to cover. Thank you very much. And I wish you all a great day, great afternoon, a great morning. Thank you.